Hey guys, I recently wrote this article on my website called the Typology Manifesto, and I kind of wanted to draw attention to it because I feel like it's one of these things that kind of gets overlooked with typology, where we get kind of lost in the search for type and typing others, and we kind of lose sight of what this is all really for and how we can really use these tools. I just wanted to show the article I have here. The main points are essentially that typology is not a cage. It's not boxing in what you or anyone else is capable of. This is a super important thing to keep in mind when looking at typology, that like everyone can do everything. Typology doesn't limit what you're able to actually accomplish. It's more about categorizing your recurring patterns. What are your central problems and imbalances that are holding you back? What are the voids in your life that you're consistently overlooking? So once we can understand these patterns, they become predictable, and we can actually use that to solve those problems and achieve some level of self-growth. You don't want to use typology to box others either. You don't want to say like, oh, I don't like those people, that's because they're this type. Like that's villainizing people, that's creating walls between you and some other person, right? That's not what we want to do with typology. That's really a misuse of the tool. We want to understand how these problems are coming up and what we can do to resolve them. In that sense, typology is really a map. Naturally, we're narrowed and imbalanced in our view of the world, and we're leaving a lot of things in our unconscious that we don't want to process. The things we are focused on is what we want to be true and not necessarily what actually is true. So we're hiding this part of ourselves from ourselves and therefore the world, and leaving these massive voids. So typology is a map back to those places. So if you think of like a treasure map, you're going in circles in a particular spot on the map. And typology gives you the perspective that there is a wider world out there and gives you the path to where those voids that you've been unconsciously leaving are hiding. By acknowledging that these parts of ourselves exist and that they're not other to us and that they actually are part of us, that's like one of the key parts here. So that's really what the shadow is. The Jungian shadow is essentially that we see the shadow, but we don't see it as part of ourselves. It's just kind of following us around and causing us problems. The idea here is to then integrate those pieces of ourselves back. Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That's the whole idea with typology. You're trying to identify where those spaces are, where you're naturally sort of saying like, oh, I can't do that, I can't work on that. You actually do have the ability to choose to do that. So it's about identifying those places where you're saying, no, I can't, and turning that into, I can. The final point here is essentially that once we are able to integrate the shadow, we become whole again. We are able to acknowledge that these unconscious voids are part of ourselves and rewrite our programming, as Viktor Frankl mentioned in that quote above. It's about acknowledging that these parts are one, are truly one existence, and finding the harmony and balance between them, so that we can no longer be running from ourselves and can be happy with and content with who we truly are. So many philosophers have basically come to the conclusion that the meaning of life is to just be. Just be in acceptance for who we are. We often get in these cycles where we're just chasing after something. And a lot of that is chasing something in avoidance of something else. And so that's a lot of the lesson that typology can teach us. What is that something else that we're refusing to acknowledge in ourselves? How can we truly be at peace? So I really want to hear from you guys, like, does this resonate with you? Do you see yourselves searching for type, trying to understand the system better, and maybe not actually applying it to yourself and how you can actually grow? I know myself, I studied typology for 5+ years on and off without ever really settling on a type before OP kind of helped me sort of see these patterns and sort of identify them for myself. Obviously, I'm still learning, and I always will be, I assume. The whole existence, it isn't just a state you suddenly enter and that's it. You have to constantly stay aware of that state and constantly work towards that balance. As things pile up on one side, you have to address them, give and take constantly. Thanks for checking out this video, and I'll link the article in the description below. Be sure to let me know what you guys think. I'll catch you later. Bye.
Manifesto, manifesto, manifesto.